Double dog underscore 88. This is double dog underscore 88. Going live. Whew, what a weekend. What a weekend, everybody. Hope everybody had a great Mother's Day. I hope everybody was able to get out there and possibly grill and just enjoy the wonderful things that we do on Mother's Day. Excuse me. So I want to talk today about a lot of things I want to talk about. I've been doing a lot of research on a lot of different things, and the idea that Nancy Guthrie has literally gone missing for 100 days or approximately 100 days. It's kind of hard to believe that we've literally reached that point and yet still have no understanding of what really has happened. Okay? Just boggling, the mind boggling is unbelievable. And I did a lot of, different research over, and it's great to be back, by the way, with everybody because I know we were off for 2 days, but yeah, I had to get myself together as well and try to figure out, not only where we were going as far as the conversation, but some of the things that needed to be said, if you will. So the topic today is literally where's Nancy Guthrie? She's been missing for 100 days, and we're just trying to bring a little common sense into this whole big picture. So that's where we're going to start at, and we may venture off in a couple little things here and there, but took some notes, and I want to be able to go over some things with everybody. Melissa's in the good morning. Good morning, Melissa. Money be I don't have that much time. Why don't I look? All right. I'm just going to ignore certain people who don't seem to have an interest. But here's the thing, everybody. Let's talk some common sense, okay? Let's talk some common sense before we go anywhere. Let's talk common sense. Norma. Norma says, good morning, DD, and a beautiful chat. Thank you so much, Norma. So, I'm going to get into the common sense part first. Now, there's a lot of things that have been talked about since Nancy Guthrie has gone missing. Taken, kidnapped, you fill in the blank. And the idea that, there's so many takes on what has happened. There's so many different variables for a lot of reasons. Many can be such as just a lack of information. Many can deal with just not having that information being presented to everyone. Okay. This could also be a lot of confusion because they're not giving any updates. They're not telling the people a whole lot. And that obviously is a factor. Okay. No doubt about it. But what that does also by not having communication with people, what has ended up happening is people start making their own assumptions, to include myself. They make their own assessments. They decide who's, for a better lack of words, who looks bad, who looks good, who looks like they could be involved, who looks like they're not. There's everything comes out when you have no communication or lack of communication. Perfectly Me says, hey, Devil Dog, hope you're doing well. Shout out from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much. Perfect. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. So, the beginning of this conversation, I want to talk about common sense. Okay. Now, we know we haven't got any reports on what has happened or what could have happened, or we haven't got any updates in God knows how long, right? And there's a lot of speculation out there that who's all involved. Could it be this person or that person, or someone makes a comment or a statement and then they become the interjection of the story, or they become the person that now everybody looks at it like, oh, that could be the good suspect, or that could be a good suspect, you know, because of lack of information. So there's a reason why in life everyone knows, or everyone should have heard before, that lack of information is what destroys almost anything in life. You got to have that communication, right? If you don't have that communication, it will destroy just about anything in life. Ellie's in the house, morning everyone. So the idea that if you don't have that communication, it's going to destroy everything. It can destroy your marriage, it can destroy your life, it can destroy your relationships, it can destroy a lot of things. But I'm going to try to explain a little bit on how it pertains to what's going on with Nancy. So, from the very beginning, when this happened, okay, when Nancy went missing, we didn't get a whole lot of information. Angela's in the house. Good to have you, Angela. And so people were making up their own assessments as to what was happening and who was involved. But here's the problem, because we didn't have any information coming out from the sheriff, or not a whole lot of information, or maybe even some very confusing information, we had so many directions that people were going back and forth all over the place. Good morning, Devil Dog. Good morning, Angela. So here's the thought. Many people have made hits or suggested that maybe it's A and TC that are involved. Well, they are involved to a certain extent, okay? They are involved because they're family to the victim. So they are involved in a sense. Not that in the sense that they did it or had anything to do with it, but they are involved. Just like Savannah, just like Cameron, just like anybody that knows the family. They are involved. Okay, everyone's involved. The reason I say that is because we're not getting any information, and the family is not saying a whole lot. Now, I'm sure the family has lawyered up. I don't know that for sure, but I'm almost positive they've lawyered up. And it could very well be that the lawyers are telling them, don't say nothing, just keep quiet, let the police handle this, yada, yada, yada. Understandable. But here's what happens: if the family would only come out once a week or once every 2 weeks and just tell the people, just in about a 5 minute blurb, if that, and tell the people this is the latest on what's going on. I know it's hard because they don't want to rehash that in their mind. They don't want to probably even think about that something happened to their mother. But here's the thing: no one likes anybody to think bad about them deep down inside. You know, you hear the people that say, well, I don't care what anybody thinks. Well, yeah, we all really do deep down inside. We care what people think about us. Okay? That's just common sense. But because Nanos hasn't given up any new news in God knows how long, it would behoove the family to have maybe this little 5 minute uh, uh, blurb to tell the people, hey, look, we miss our mom every day. We're trying to figure out what happened. We talk to the sheriff, if they do, every day. So they need to call the sheriff every day and find out what is the newest update. It may seem like an overkill, and pardon my no pun intended, but it may seem like it's an overreach. But the reality is that the people want to know because they can relate. If this was their mother, if this was their, grandmother that went missing. So the idea that we're not hearing nothing from Nanos and you're not hearing anything from the family makes you wonder, well, does the people even care? And, people are going to make that assumption. And the idea that if the family would just come out and say, we're calling, and do it, by the way, we're calling the sheriff every day. We're making a quick call. I'm making a quick call, whether it's Savannah or whether it's Tommy or whether it's Annie or whether it's Cameron. We're calling and we're asking, what is the latest update? And if there's nothing, okay, fine. There's nothing. And if it's, well, we're doing what we can, we have a possible suspect in mind, but, right now we just can't really say a whole lot about it, because it's under investigation. But we do have somebody in mind, or whatever the case may be that Nanos tells that family member, because they deserve to know every day what is the new lead. Now, I can understand how some may say, well, every day's, it's kind of an overreach, he doesn't have the time. Well, I get it. The sheriff has to be the sheriff for everybody in this community, in his community. He has to be the sheriff. It's not just one person. Okay. Even though this is a big case, it's not just one person. But in the same token, the family has to be able to convey this to the people so the people will be able to understand where is the mindset of the family. So the reason I bring this up because to me it's common sense. If this had been my mother, I would have called Nanos every day asking him, where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? Okay. And let him tell me, where are we at? Buttercup is in the house. Good morning, all. Groundsky's in the house. So the idea that that's not happening is causing a lot of people to speculate, to make hasty comments to the fact that, well, the family just doesn't care. The family don't care. The family doesn't care. Look, Savannah's back at her work. Cameron's living back where he lives. Annie and Tommaso don't even talk about it. They just don't care about their mom. When truth be told, it is very possible that they do care and care quite a bit. Okay? But they're just not conveying that information. They're not giving people that communication. Okay? And like I said before, every time this happens or when something like this happens, you always have people telling you different missed messages like, don't say nothing, keep quiet. They're going to think you had something to do with it, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. But the reality is the people need to know, because the people are your networking. The people around you are your networkers. They're the ones that are going to go out there and look for Nancy in this case. They're the ones that are going to go, whether they're on a dirt bike out there searching, whether they're walking on foot, whether they're keeping the story going. They're the ones that are keeping this going because they care. Okay? Some may be for other reasons, but for me, because we care. Because it could have been our grandma, it could have been our mom. What is the upsetting is Savannah asked our help and can't keep us updated at Nancy. I totally understand, Norma, no doubt about it. Melissa says exactly. Angela, I'd be calling every day almost to the point of harassing them. Oh, no doubt about it. And you're exactly all right. But here's what needs to happen. Savannah or the family, either part of the family, Savannah and her family, siblings, need to give out these statements and need to give out statements. They need to call Nanos every day and ask them where we're at. And then maybe once a week come out and say, so we have been in contact with Sheriff Nanos. We've been talking about everything that's been happening, who could be, like, do they have any new leads, new informations, some things he can tell us, some things he can't tell us. But the one thing's for sure is that they made a little bit of headway in certain areas, and we can't really divulge that, but we can tell you we miss our mom, we love our mom, and there's not a day goes by that we're not feeling the pain. Just that simple. That simple. So saying that, people start to understand and start to humanize everybody like they should have from the beginning. But we get caught up in the weeds as well. So we start making these hasty things about, well, they don't care about her. They don't care. They're not even looking for her. They're not doing anything. They're not doing this and that, you know. And then we start making these comments and accusations that we would never let anybody make it about us. So why would we make accusations about others? Growski says, good news. Suzanne Kerwin Hall, Seaside, California, found safe at local park as of May 8th. Good deal, Growski. Thank you for that information. Sling says, if the family did come forward, no matter what, they say people would still twist and say that they don't owe the public anything. But that's true. But that's true. But then that just shows the ignorance of the people, correct? That shows the ignorance. When you are trying to give information and letting people know because you're trying to give them update information, you're trying to give them that communication back and forth, and people still want to have that thinking of what they're going to believe, whatever they believe. Well, that's fine. But it can never be said that the family didn't try to show their human side, their caring side about their mother. And that goes a long way for the person who has common sense. Norma, yes, Didi, you nailed it perfectly. Thank you. Well said. So my point is, they come out, and once a week they come out and they just say, "We talked to Nanos all week. We want to let you know we've been talking to him every day since Mom has been taken, and he has given us some information, some that we can share with you, some that we can't. But he has given us information, and there's not a day that goes by that we're not feeling the pain. The reality is this: I've asked Sheriff Nanos, why did we stop? You know, the big question is a big question out there is why did they stop the search after 2 days? And that's including from when the call came in. And it would be nice to hear Nanos' response to that, which I did think that there was a comment made, something about safety or they didn't have any leads or something to that effect. Of course, we all know there was so much miscommunication back and forth that I'm sure that played a role in it as well. But now you have the idea of maybe one of the siblings asking the question, okay, why is it that we can't call Cajun Navy? What was the reason you didn't want them out here? What is the reason you didn't want them? I mean, some of these questions are going to be tough questions, but some of these questions has to be answered so the people will understand more about what's going on. And if there's not a valid question, then maybe someone in the family, when they do these little weekly pressers, can say, hey, Nanos, we're going to go to the public and we're going to ask Cajun Navy if they can come out and help search for our mother. Is there an issue with that? And if so, tell me why. Because we think we need to go a little bit further as to how we can locate our mom, you know, either alive or unalive. It's just that simple. Reading some of these comments. Good morning, Melissa. Anyone know if the family brings flowers to Nancy Moore for Mother's Day? No idea. So now you have a build of communication with the public, with the people. They understand, and we're seeing what this family is going through. We see and what's happening. See, it's common sense. When you have communication, people tend to understand what's happening. When you have no communication, it breaks down everything. Mary, welcome, Mary. So the idea is that they really need to convey this. And then if people are going to make these comments and suggestions that maybe it's somebody in the family, well, then it's going to probably be based on some type of evidence or some type of crazy behavior, not just something where you just want to throw out because you think that, you know, it sounds good. Or what else? No one's saying nothing, so they must be involved. You know, it's that kind of stuff that no one knows what a family is going through until they're in their shoes. Okay? No one knows. So if I was the family and this was my mother, this is what I would be telling Sheriff Nanos. Every day I'd be calling him, what's going on? Now, this is giving you an example. Every day I'd be asking him, what's going on? What's happening? April, believe when a purpose loose, Nano owes the public the information, in my opinion. True, April, very true. So the idea that I would say, I need an update today, like I needed an update yesterday, like I need an update every day. What is happening? Where are we at? And then Nanos would say something to the effect of, okay, well, we haven't heard anything new today. Okay. Are we looking? Are we searching? Are we trying to find my mom? Well, of course we are. Okay. What are you doing to meet that standard of looking and finding my mom, our mother? Okay. Then putting him on the spot where he has to now elaborate and explain what they're doing. Okay. And then at that point, I would say, look, what can I do to help? I do have a platform. I get it. What can I do to help in any way, shape, or form? Whether it's is calling people to come and search, whether it's asking people if they would help us with our finding our mother. What is it that I can do to go ahead and make this easier on you? Okay. And no, not saying anything is not gonna work. That's what I would say. And then Nanos would respond to whatever he wants to respond. Didi, I can't imagine the family's pain, especially yesterday at Mother's Day. God bless them all. No doubt about it. Well said, Angela. And then he's going to have to say, tell me, well, look, so and so, this is what we're finding. We have a suspect, but we can't really give you that information. We think it's getting closer. What makes it look like you're getting closer? Well, we got a really good lead on this and that and the other. Okay. Then the next day I call. Where are we at? Or maybe the next couple of days I call. Where we're at? Where are we? Where are we? What happened to the lead? What happened to the lead that we had? Are we still there? We're not there. What's going on? And then he's going to have to answer that. He's going to have to answer to my questions as to what can I do to make this easier on you? Because the fact of the matter is, me sitting here or me doing my show or me going ahead and being at home, any one of us siblings being at home doing nothing is a day gone wasted. So explain to me what we need to do, because we would love to get people in here and do one massive search, maybe a 5-10 mile radius. What do you think about that? That's what I would ask Nanos. And then he's going to have to say, well, yeah, I mean, I see your point. We did search. Nanos, in all due respect, you only searched 48 hours and probably even less than that, because this all started when the call came in. So in reality, you really didn't search even 48 hours. And you did state that it was something to do because of safety reasons. There's snakes and there's this and there's that. Look, there's groups out there, Nanos, that literally have the ability to do the searching. Case in point, maybe Cajun Navy. This stuff needs to be brought out, because here's what's going to happen. After they get off with that conversation, and they're having this conversation on a daily or every other day basis, at the end of the week, guess what? We're going to have a little presser. And we're going to tell the people, look, so the latest news is this. We are looking at possibly getting a hold of Cajun Navy. They say they have a lead. They can't give me the details, but because they don't want it to leak out, but they do have a lead. And we're hoping that that lead makes it to the next stage of where we can find our mother. You follow me? It's about asking all those questions and then regurgitating that back to the people so that people can understand we do care. That's our mom. How could anybody sit there and say we don't care? This is our mother. Okay? And the more emphasis is put on that, the people are getting information, so they're understanding. They're getting it. They're understanding. Yes, this family hasn't given up. Okay? And they're understanding that Nanos is doing something because he's giving this family information. Remember, communication is key. It's the most important thing in anything in life. Read this here. Not only pain of the family's mother, but imagine the fear that this purpose still not caught 100 days announced. Announce a suspect and 100 days not finding Nancy. Very well said, April. Angela, I would sign a form to release any liability and anyone just to be able to search. Well said. Angela, April, yes. So now we have communication, which opens up dialogue, which now you have communication that opens up dialogue that now you can convey to people on what we need to do next. What is the next step? Okay. And the next step may just be giving more information the next couple of days or the next week. You follow me? That is crucial if you want to go ahead and stay on top of it. And it's crucial for people to hear because then they want to give more of their time, more of their understanding, more of themselves to help find where Nancy's at. I can't imagine anyone with the sane mind would literally go out there and say, I don't care. I don't care. Now, I'm sure there's people out there that would do that, but I cannot even phantom that because I'm not going to give anybody a reason to even think that for the simple fact that they're getting information and they're helping us look for our mother. Therefore, they know this is not falling on deaf ears. It's just that simple, folks. It's common sense. Angela, I would sign a form. Angela, April, yes. April said hi. Paula's in the house, said hi. So now we have communication established. Now people understand on a weekly basis that you and the family are talking to the sheriff every day, getting info. Okay? People get that. People respect that. And people can literally be there on your corner to help in any which way you need. But they have to feel like it's going somewhere, not just falling on deaf ears. Follow me? That's important. That's very important. Okay. So now we have Nanos talking, and I'm asking him these questions. I remember I'm pertaining like this has happened to my mother. Now Nanos is now going ahead and saying, okay, well, the reason we don't want to have Cajun Navy here is because of this. Yes, but the idea is that they could search the area pretty quick and see if they could find whatever remains are left. And at some point, Nanos is going to have to say, well, you got to make that decision, or I really can't make that decision right now because I can't justify it, even though we know that's crazy. We can find out exactly where his state of mind is as well, where Nano's state of mind is. Where is he going? What is his thought process? Why don't you want to do this? What, you think she's already gone? Well, we still need to find her remains. So we can see where the thinking process of Nanos is going. We can also know where the thinking process of the family is at. And that is important. That makes sense. Because you'll need the people behind you, not the people criticizing you because they're not hearing nothing. You want the people behind you because they know you're doing something, because they know you care. And I'm not saying that the Guthrie family doesn't care about their mother or mother-in-law. What I'm saying is when people see that, then it cares even more to them. So now they start to want to get more involved. That's how you build that communication. That's how you build people to understand what you're feeling, what you're going through. Hit the like button, everybody. Do me that favor, please. Hit the like button. So this is all about common sense, folks. It's not rocket scientists. Communication is the worst thing. A lack of communication is the worst thing you can possibly do. Literally. And I get it. It may be painful at times when you have to say, we don't know where she's at. We still miss our mom. We don't know. I get it. But here's the thing. If you can bring her back alive or unalive, like you said, and like it has been said before by the family, we either celebrate a life well lived or we celebrate her with us again. Just that simple. It is that simple. Because you have met both of those scenarios in your mind that you know either it's this or this. There's nothing in between. Follow me? Norma, no answers from either side. No doubt. Totally agree. Groundsky, the narrative of the story would be best guided by a genuine feeling of trust, not governed by misinformation of the sheriff's office. That is 100% correct. And that's what I'm saying. This is how you get this information out. This is how you go ahead and explain it. This is how you go ahead, literally, and get the people to be on your side to help you in any which way, shape, or form. It's that simple. It really is. Right? It's easy to understand something when someone is explaining it to you. It's hard to know what's going on when no one is saying nothing. Okay? I get it. Browski, I completely agree 100%. Morning, all the faithful servant is in the house. No search after the second unallied confidence. And that's no doubt. That's no doubt. Norma, good morning, faithful. So the whole point is letting people know what's happening. And how do you find out? Well, you call him every day, the sheriff. You call him every 2 days. You call him every 3 days. You call him. And then at the end of the week, or possibly even 2 weeks, I would say at the end of the week, you just give a little quick 5-minute blurb. We talked to animals all week. This is what, we're not able to give specific details, but this is what we're looking at going next. We're looking at bringing in Cajun Navy. We're looking at bringing in another search party. We're looking at, there's been a lot of rhetoric out there in the ethosphere about possible suspects that a lot of people have been talking about making connections. Savannah could very easily say, or any of the family could say, have we looked at these people at all? We're on top of it, yes, but have we looked at these people? Because a lot of this stuff that I'm reading is making sense. Make no mistake. The family is reading a lot of these YouTubers, a lot of these streamers who are out there trying to put the pieces together. They're reading it, and to them, it's making sense. They just don't know if it's reaching the higher masses, okay? They don't know if it's reaching the higher masses. So the idea is that asking those questions and getting those answers will tell you if they're actually reaching the higher masses. And if that's the case, now you can convey that to the people. So now you have people who literally are out there as your mouthpiece, feeling like they are being heard and it's not falling on deaf ears, if you will. Follow me? Good morning. I hope you all had a wonderful Mother's Day. Faithful servant. Fall says, so I had a very interesting phone conversation with a lady yesterday who went to school with Daily and Day. Okay, interesting, Falls. And the idea is that the more you put out there, the more you talk to the people, the more they become more acceptance and the less they begin to try to blame anyone, especially the family. Because in their mind, they can't even see that. The only way that would happen is if literally a family member was taken in and was charged for this heinous crime. That's the only time a person would then look at the family and say, that person, I knew it all along, or that person I never suspected. But no one until then is going to say that, but that doesn't mean they're not going to feel like, hey, that person could be involved because they're not saying nothing. That person's being quiet, so they're not saying nothing. You follow where I'm going? You have to communicate this to the people. It's to your best interest, to the Guthrie family, to convey this to the people. It's Nanos' best interest because he's probably going to lose his job because he never conveyed anything like this. When's the last time we had when's the last time they gave a press conference on what was going on? What was the latest news? I don't think anybody can really think back when, unless they Google it. It's been that long. And that should never happen. That should never, ever, ever happen when you can't even remember when the last time there was a press conference without looking at Google or asking AI. Just saying, the facts are the facts. Norma, good morning, April. Hope you had a beautiful blessing. Paula, hi, faithful, ground ski. So, my point in this conversation with y'all is to say sometimes, yes, it feels like people don't care, but it's only because there is no communication to these people that are doing their own thing for your benefit to help find your mother. That's just a fact. And if you're not going to show interest and uh, uh, thanks for what people are doing, and you're not going to give them any feedback as to where we're at, well, then how does anybody expect anybody to go above and beyond to help find a member of another family if they don't see the lack of urgency in that own family? It's just common sense. It's common sense. It's almost like saying, why should I care if nobody in the family cares? That's an example. And Paula says they don't really want help. I mean, and that may be it because maybe that's what they're being told, Paula. Maybe that is what they're being told. And I'm here to tell you that is wrong information. That is wrong. That is wrong for them to feel like they don't want the help. Then why did they ask for the help at the very beginning? Why did Savannah ask? You understand what I mean? It's like, once again, you can say on one side of your mouth, you want to find your mom, but on the other side of your mouth, you say, I don't want your help. Okay, then tell us what you're doing. Oh, nothing. We're relying on the sheriff. Okay, what is he doing? We really don't know. Well, that's the whole point. We don't know. And if we knew, I think it would bode well for the family to be able to get more support from the people. No doubt about it. Good comment there, Paula. No doubt. Angela, not even a thank you to searchers still looking for the family. Look, this is the only way you're going to get people to get in line and want to help you find your mother is by literally getting some update as to what is going on. And this is the only way you're going to get that monkey off your back, so to speak, as they would use, that this person has something to do with it. This person's being quiet, they're hiding something. This You would squash that all together in a heartbeat. You just would. And then the most important thing is you put Nanos in a position where he has to literally answer what you have, your questions. What are we doing today? What did we find out yesterday? What did we find out 2 days ago? Where are we at on leads? Well, we start looking. No. Where are we at? Do we have a credible lead? Just shoot straight with me. Yes or no? You follow me? Those are the things that have to be asked, and, you know, people have asked the questions, which way did they come in? Which way did the person come in? No one knows, you know. Which way what time did the deputy show up exactly? Well, they got a time of when they showed up, but they don't know. We don't even know who opened the doors in the back and kept them open, right? You know. And when these questions are being asked to the sheriff, he says, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to go ahead and go there. We're not going, okay, well, explain why. Explain why to the people so they understand. We're not going to go there because it's something that could lead to something else, and we don't want to give up that good lead. Why do we think that there was a problem? Well, we saw the blood at the front door, and at that point we realized literally that there was also maybe something inside the house that made us think this was not a voluntary, she just wanted to leave on her own. Okay? It's that simple. When you're clear, people are clear. When you clear, people understand. When you talk in semantics and riddles, people have nowhere to go but make their own assessment on what you're trying to say. And that's what's happening now. That's what we're dealing with, everybody. Norma says, no answers or updates for nanos of the family. Shame on them. We care for Nancy too. Amen. Not even a thank you for looking for the family to the people that are looking. No doubt. April, Nano not talking has created suspicion of family from the public, in my opinion, and that is wrong. No doubt about that, April. Angela, yes, 100%. So many went to help find Nancy if they would just let them help. No doubt. Carol, good morning, Carol. See, that's the whole point. You guys are saying everything that's factually correct. Everything that's factually correct. And you're saying what I'm explaining exactly. Paula, it gives the impression they already know where Nancy is or they just don't care. Very true. And how do you get that out of their mindset? It's that you go ahead and literally you go ahead and have that conversation, the communication, you build it between the people and Nancy. Once you build that communication, people understand where you're going. They get it. They realize. Milan says hi. How you doing, Milan? Carol's in the house. So that's why, in my opinion, working in law enforcement, there are so many things that are crucial that have to be presented. Yes, there's some things that won't come out because they are crucial to knowing if you're talking to a perpetrator and or a suspect or whatever. So there's some things you cannot say, but there's a hell of a lot that you can say. There's a hell of a lot that you can literally get the people to help you solve that crime. No one's going to steal your thunder, you know. The streamers, YouTubers, they don't want to steal your thunder. They just want to help find Nancy. So that has to be the understanding. But the only way they're going to know that is if the family comes out and is giving them literally some information because they're getting it from nanos every day. That's what I would do as a son or daughter of a victim. Carol, please hit the like button, everybody, and share it. So this is all about common sense because listen, everybody, it's all about common sense. This is not something outside the box. This is not something that's crazy. This is all common sense. Lisa's in the house. Hi, dog and pups. That is how you get people to understand where you're coming from. I don't need to see Savannah leave the set for whatever reasons. She's sad. She's something struck a nerve. She had an appointment. I don't need to think all into that. That Savannah's no longer on the set because she just had to leave. You know what I'm saying? That's not something that I should even think about. Okay? The reality is that it has to be seen that the family has that urgency as well. And I'm not saying they don't, because I'm sure the health thing, and I feel like they do. It's just not filtering to everybody who is giving their time trying to help find your all's mother. And that's truly, we all have mothers. We all have grandmothers. We all have loved ones that have gone missing. or not all of us, but some of us, we get it. But if you don't ask for the help, if you don't give information to the people that are trying to help you, well, what do you think they're going to make? What type of accusations or innuendos or what type of maybe vile rhetoric might they say because you just didn't show that you cared? It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Like right now, I'm sure the majority of the people could look at Nattles and says and say to themselves, that guy just don't care 2 cents about Nancy. That guy just doesn't give a hoot about Nancy. That sheriff just, it's not his mom. That's why he's not looking. It's not his mom. That's why he's not having every rock turned upside down. This is what people think. You know why? Because it's common sense to think that. When that's what you're getting, when the feedback that you're getting is that what he is delivering, that's what people are going to think. He's doing nothing. He must be hiding something. Who in his family has done this? Who in his family has done that? Who has he protected? Why is he this? Why is he doing that? You see what I'm saying? All that speculation stuff comes into play. Why? Because you just didn't communicate with the people. Makes no damn sense. April says, hit the like and subscribe, everybody. If you like the channel, subscribe. This is all about common sense. Carol Burton says, hello. There is my email if you got to send me something. Thank you, April, for putting my email out there. Angela, good morning, Lisa. Glad you are here. April, Lisa, Carol, do you think Nattles will resign today? He's either going to resign or he's going to get fired and lose his pension. That's what's going to happen. Whether it's today or tomorrow, it's going to happen. He's already lost the confidence of the people, in my opinion, Norma. And I think there's no way of getting that back. None. Zero. I think that ship has sailed. It's just a matter of logistics, in all honesty. Carol, hello, Norma. Norma, good morning, Carol. April, he looked like a deer in the headlights when asked about Nancy the other day. Well, yeah. You know why he looked like a deer in the headlights? He hasn't probably even thought about it. And I know that's harsh to say about a sheriff, but you know what? What else has he given the people to show that he really does have Nancy's best interest, that he really has the family's best interest at heart? I mean, if you find something that shows that, let us know. Let me know. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen him show any sense of urgency that he cares about what the outcomes can actually be. He wasn't expecting media outside any longer, laughing out loud. Very true, the faithful servant. Paula, hi, Lisa. Paula, hi, Lisa. Paula, faithful Lisa. Savannah posted Nancy to her Instagram story yesterday afternoon. Amen. Awesome. That's great. There's a start. Thank you, Paige. Norma, good morning, Lisa. The faithful servant, he started parking his Corvette in the front again. Lisa, thanks for the warm welcome, everybody. See, the whole point is if you want people to help you and you want people to trust you and you want people to literally make a difference for you, well, then you have to give them that information to feel like what they're doing is not just a waste of time, that it's not a waste of time, that it is something where they're trying to help accomplish the goal that everyone should have, and that, where is Nancy? Where is she? Did we rate the lakes? Did we check? Did we do a thorough? Did we call in the powers to be to do a search, a massive search? All those things are important because at the end of the day, when you cover all those areas, all those, not just the ones I mentioned, but all those areas, when you have literally talked about all those issues, then you've left nothing, no rock unturned. That's what people want to see. Why? Because they're giving their time. They're looking. They want to help. They want to make a difference. They live in that area. They live in that Catalina foothills. It means something to them. Nancy meant something to them. But if it doesn't show that it's meant to Nanos, that Nancy doesn't mean nothing to Nanos or the family, well, well, then I guess we just go ahead and make our own assessments. And that's when everything goes wrong. Common sense, folks. Common sense. I feel like Nanos is self-absorbed, narcissistic type. Very well could be, Angela, no doubt. April, if he leaves, who will come in and take over the investigation? They will probably put the next person in line that they feel, just until they can go ahead and have the elections, have like a midterm elections or some elections. If he had like 2 years left, and they would do probably put it on the mid elections, to be honest, and then select someone there to fulfill the last 2 years of the thing where he has to run again, the last of the commitment, the contract. And it could be anybody who runs. It could be Sergeant Cross. It could be anybody. Anybody could run for that. Probably my guess is they would probably push for Sergeant Cross because he's been one of the vocal ones that have come out and literally talked about what he doesn't agree with and everything that he has seen. Could be very well him, until the next election, and then maybe somebody else comes in with more experience, more knowledge, or whatnot. Just depends, but that's how it usually works. Gronsky, the car seems more important to the sheriff than the Nancy, no doubt. Lisa, explain what could be the reason for the family continuing to hide besides they're scared because that's bull. So the reason, well, there is no good reason, first of all, Lisa. Okay, there's no good reason why the family is continuing to go on with their lives rather than to give and help find their mom. The first thing is we don't know what they're doing, okay, because they're not communicating. We don't know what the sheriff's doing because he's not communicating. So the idea is not so much that the family is hiding anything. It's just the perception is that they're not giving anything. So that's why so far this whole stream has been about common sense. Okay, they need to get out in front. They need to give the people and explain what's happening on a weekly basis. They need to talk and call nanos every day to see where the case is at, what has been done. Maybe make some suggestions. They need to make suggestions about calling the Cajun Navy. Why aren't they not searching? Anything like that. And then have that 5 minute little blurb of media to the people saying, hey, look, this is where we're at. It's day such. This is what's happened. We are now looking at possibly getting, a hold of Cajun Navy or other organizations. The sheriff has stated that they have a person of interest, but he can't really explain. Anything like that would help because communication is the number one attention getter. If you can get people to communicate, you'll hear a lot more. If people don't communicate, well, then you just make up your own assessment. Okay? So I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact that they're hiding. I just subscribe to the fact that they're not conveying nothing to the people, which is making a lot of people second guess why they volunteer to help and locate Nancy. Because if the family doesn't care, well, then how is anybody else supposed to care? Once again, that just goes to common sense. That's how it is. That's what it's about. The biggest thing that could go wrong in anything, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a case like this, whether it's anything, is the lack of communication. That will take anything down, especially in law enforcement. Could you imagine if there was no communication, you'd have exactly what you have right now. People just making up their own assessment. BG, good morning. Thank you for that question, Lisa. BG, good morning. Savannah said they would never stop looking for Nancy. Did I miss something? When did they start? And why is it Savannah calling out? Well, and that's the whole point. That's the point of this live. They need to have conversations with Nanos every day. They need to talk to him every day to find out what's going on. What is the latest day? maybe every day, every 2 days, once a week, they need to have a little press conference and just whether it's 5 minutes long and say we spoke to Nails, we've been talking to him every day and trying to get where we're at on the case. And although we may not, and she could say, or the family member could say, even though we may not agree on some things, we do agree that we're still looking. It has been brought to his attention that we might want to get, someone like a group like the Cajun Navy or other search party groups that can come in and do massive searches because it seems like we're stagnant. Something as simple as that would go a long way. As simple as that. But that's not what we're getting. So people are just making their own assessments, you know. Even myself at times making my own assessments. Well, I guess that if the lawyers they lawyer it up and they're not going to say anything because their attorneys are telling them don't say nothing. Well, is it because they know something in behind the scenes that we don't know, and that is somebody could be involved in the family? You just never know. But those are the assumptions that kick in because of lack of communication. You're not getting any information. Buster Brown, they've closed the case. No, they didn't close the case yet, Buster Brown. I don't buy that they closed the case. But I appreciate your opinion, no doubt about it. I just don't think that's the case. Lisa says absolutely no doubt. Paula, BG, yes. I dislike Savannah with a passion now, but not before. And that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I can tell you, Lisa, everybody, you're probably going to have that type of feeling. Most people will have a lot of those type of feelings because they're not seeing any communication being done. They're not hearing anything. They're not seeing anything. So if people don't hear or see anything, then they feel like their work that they have done to help try to find where Nancy is. Well, if it doesn't care to the family, why the hell is it going to care to me, right? Make perfect sense. And that's why I'm talking about how they need to constantly have literally weekly 5-minute blurbs as to where the case stands. Okay. What the conversations with Nanos are, what Nanos are saying. Nanos should be doing this himself. But if he's not going to do this, then the family needs to force his hand and do it themselves. Period. Full stop. Carol says, wonder who's right under Nanos. Not really sure, to be honest. Paula, I don't know how people can still watch the Today Show anymore. Yeah, probably because there's other people there that they like, would be my guess. Norma, you're welcome, Lisa. Lisa, make a public announcement of appreciation and or acknowledgement of the efforts that are being made and care and sacrifice their own lives for them. I'm not sure really. Well, that's a good point. That's a good point, Lisa. I would say go ahead and give a weekly update as to what's going on and get the people back on your side to help you, the people that are looking. You know, I personally don't need anybody to pat me on the back and tell me, hey, thanks for your work. Okay. I do it because I have a I had a mother before she passed. I have a grandmother before she passed. So I can understand why that's important. So I don't need any patting on my back. I just need information so that I can know that what I'm doing is not for naught, right? That it's not all going to the wayside, that someone is listening, that when people have theories and ideas, that some people are being checked into. You have to feel like what you're doing matters, because if it doesn't matter, then what the hell are you going to do it for? I'm not big on people that need a pat on the back. I'm big on people that are giving information to those people because that's what they want. You know, that's what they want. They want to know that their time is not just throwing out when the family doesn't appear to care 2 cents, in my opinion. Angela says, Dee, the silence is deafening. It is, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I used to love the Today Show. Now I selection watch the show sad. I get it, Gronsky, no doubt. April, Savannah has a problem. She could be saying more if she wanted to on part of the family. Oh, I totally agree. And that's what this whole conversation is about today. No doubt about it. Well said. Paula, the family doesn't owe the public anything. But Savannah asked for help and award, so she should acknowledge the public's efforts. I get what you're saying, that she should acknowledge the public's efforts. I understand that. But it's even more than that. Why should she acknowledge the public's effort? Because they're out there doing something for the family, correct? But more than that, why do people want to know like information? Is because they are putting their time, sweat, and tears into trying to find where Nancy's at. I'm not a big keen on that the family needs to, or that people need to be, thanked and praised for their hard work. That goes without saying. You see that every day when they're out there doing what they're doing. Okay, what you don't want is for to lose them because you fail to give them information, as little as it may be, and that's what's really hurting this case. Nanos and the family are not given anything. And the family could be told, keep quiet, don't say a word. That's only literally causing more problems than not. Because by them not talking, people don't know, why am I doing anything if no one's really like speaking out? If no one's telling us what's happening behind the scenes, how in the hell am I going to keep doing this? You know what I mean? There's that balance, and you got to have that balance. April, I mean, I thank you for helping our family. Appreciate that. That sort of. I get it. I get it, April. I get it. Paula, I totally understand what you're saying. You're not wrong for thinking that. You're not wrong at all. I think that's more than that's at least that can be done, no doubt. All I'm saying is that if they were conveying information every week, having a little press conference saying, hey, this is where we're at today, today's X amount of day, this is what we're hearing, this is what we talk to nanos, so you all know we're talking to nanos every day to find out where we're at on the case. That will go a long ways, because then people will see that their effort is not just, how can I say, kicked to the wayside, if that makes any sense. If it weren't for the streamers, what would we really know? Yeah. Yeah, I understand that, Gronsky. BG, exactly. April, Savannah has tens of millions and could have hired to top-notch people to move experience that current investigators. Something is very wrong here. Paula, April, exactly. Angela, I would be begging people to help look and help for my mom. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. BG, I agree. Gronsky, we all feel the pain. Jenny, when an award of $1 million dollars is offered by SG, that is encouraging people to keep looking. But I believe SG already knows what happened, and that's deceiving the public. If in fact that is true, Jenny, yes, you're 100% spot on. If that's true, proving if that's true is a different story. Okay. And that's why the doubts come in, is because they're not given any information. Therefore, the thought process is it's very deceiving. Had they been giving people information at least once a week, right, then that theory that you might have, you may not have, because you're hearing what's happening weekly. You're hearing the updates of what's going on. But when you don't hear nothing, absolutely, that's a lot of people are going to feel that way, no doubt. She could use her platform on the show to give a quick word about her mom, just to keep her name out there. True, true, Paula, no doubt. So that's the whole point at the beginning of this conversation that we're having is it's all about common sense, folks. You got to be able to communicate with the people. You got to be able to have that conversation. Communication is the biggest breakdown in life. When you don't have it, everything starts to sink. Your relationships, your family structure, your friends, people who trust you, all that goes to the wayside when there's a lack of communication. And that's what I'm trying to get here is there is a lack of communication. Why? Because we're not hearing nothing. Who needs to step up in this? The family. Why? Because they could put Nanos in a position where he needs to start talking. Look, if I call Nanos and I am the victim's sibling or the victim's mother or the victim is my mother, and I call Nanos, I'm gonna ask him some very tough questions. What are you doing? I haven't heard nothing in months. What are you doing? Where are we at? And I'm gonna tell him I'm gonna call you every day. So be ready not only to take my phone call, be ready to leave me with some information as to where we're at. Where are we at? Because we're hearing nothing. And the people who are out there searching are getting nothing either. They're not seeing nothing. So you need to go ahead and literally tell me where are we at. And at that point, now you can have that once a week meeting with the public and say, this is where we're at, everybody. I would just want you guys to know this is what they're saying. This is what I did ask them, about these search groups, and this is what they said. But if things don't start changing, then we may have to go ahead and get a hold of these search groups myself. That is what you want to hear from somebody in the family, because only they can put pressure on Nanos. They're the only ones, right? The only ones. It would look very horribly wrong. Thank you so much, Paige. Appreciate you. It would be so much horribly go wrong if in fact literally the Nanos says nothing. It would go horribly wrong, like it is going horribly wrong. The reality is that Nanos has to be put on that spot. The only one that's going to do that is the family. And Savannah and her family need to understand that. They are right now hanging by a limb. And I'm talking about people, streamers that are out there trying to help find their mother. They are hanging by a limb. And what I mean by that is that to constantly, people are trying to constantly go ahead and find out more information, and yet they can't. And the only person that's going to make that happen is the family. That's it. It's just that simple. The family's the only one that can do it. Because what is Nana's going to say? No, Savannah, I don't think we're going to do that. No, Savannah. No, Cameron, I don't think that's possible. Nope. Cannot tell you anything right now. It's under investigation. That shit's not going to fly, everybody. The family can put so much pressure on Nanos that at some point he's going to have to say, you know what? I'm out of here. Literally, like resign, I'm done. Or to cave in and say, okay, what do you want to do? Find our mother. Okay, well, we are looking. Okay, who's looking? Why was the search team cut off early? How can we go ahead and do this? How can we get the Cajun Navy in here? How can we get other organizations? It may be too late already, as some has suggested, about having a big search party because of all the wash and all the dust storms and all the compromising of evidence is gone. It may be too late to even get anything from it, but at least people understand that you're trying. And that sometimes goes a long way, no doubt about it. All right, let me read some of these. Thank you. Oh, Rod. Lisa Page just sent a Devil Dog 88 gift membership. Make sure you say thank you, whoever receives it, and thank you, Lisa Page. April, Angel, we love having you here. Thank you so much, April. Appreciate you. Paula, thank you, April. April, thank you, Lisa. Angela, I pray the lab in Quantico will come through with the DNA very soon. No doubt about it. You're very spot on, Angela. Lisa, you're welcome. Gronsky, you're so very kind, Lisa. Sauce said hi. How you doing, Sauce? Paige says hi, Sauce. Paige, welcome to the membership. Paula, hoorah, simplify. There you go, Paula. Congratulations. Angela said hi. Paula, oh, it was Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, for the gifted membership. You are so welcome, Paula. Glad it was you. So the idea of literally communication is crucial. You guys know that. You guys have heard that. And there is a reason why it has always been said. It is literally a game changer. When you communicate, you will literally get more answers. When there is no communication, you will have literally a breakdown. Okay? So I believe in my law enforcement experience that there has to be more communication. And the only ones that are going to do that is going to be the family. So my suggestion to the family would be call Nanos every day, have a press meeting once a week, and just say whatever it is that you got to give hope to the people that are helping you or trying to help you find your mom. That is crucial. That is, I mean, crucial. That is so important. And that goes a long way. So it's common sense, folks. It's common sense. When you show that you appreciate the work of what people are doing, people are going to respond with giving more work to you. And when you show that you couldn't care or that you just moving on with your life, people can see right through that and they're going to move on with their life. It's just that simple. It is just that simple. Okay. So that's where we're at right now. Norma, I can't go through each name on here. Just wanted to say you are all beautiful, kind people here. God bless you, each one of here. Dee Dee, thank you for carrying and keeping Nancy's name alive. Bless you. Thank you so much for the kind words. Norma, this is a great chat, and I love everybody in here. The people that still believe the family actually believe the family is hiding in fear of being kidnapped themselves. No doubt about it. Very well said, Lisa. Norma, much love to you. So that's where that's at. Now, I'm going to shift the gear narrative a little bit away from the common sense aspect of what really Savannah needs to do to go ahead and get the people the information they need to feel like it is going in the right place. Paige, Norma, love to you. Elisa, oh, thank you, Norma. Back at you, girl. Norma, April, Norma, you are so appreciated and so kind. So there was some things that came out the other day that I found quite interesting. And it was a lot of stuff. I mean, I had 2 days to look at stuff and not necessarily didn't have 2 days to process it, just to really look at it. I'm looking for Brenda because she got dragged a bit the other day, and I want to express my gratitude for her being here. Amen. Nancy taught her children kindness and appreciation, not seeing much of that though. I understand that. Hi, Elisa. So, we all know they only did little less than 48 hours of search and they called it off, right? That was just crazy. So, one of the big questions is the family, and when I say the family, referring to literally um, Annie and Tommaso, because they're the only ones that really lived there, close by Nancy. Okay, they had gotten the phone call from the church people, right? They were gotten the phone call. They responded to check um, on Nancy, Annie's mom, and they went there. Hi, Lisa. Tori says hi. Paige, Tori, Norma, April, Paula, Ellie. So Nancy taught her children kindness and appreciation, not seeing it. So here's the kicker. So apparently, when she got the call from the church people that their mom didn't show up because they watched this live is out of New York, which is the different hours is 3 hour difference from the East Coast to the West Coast. So the idea that 911 call came in, okay, they arrived there at 11 o'clock a.m. Annie and Tommaso. They started to, like anybody, you get there, mom, where are you at, mom? Where you at, mom? You know, and there doesn't really talk about going in through the front door other than to say that they were just looking for their mom. Okay. Now, they didn't call 911 until 12:03. Think about that. That's a difference, literally, of about an hour and 3 minutes, 56, 57 minutes, somewhere in there. They didn't call 911 until that time. Now, the projection is that they were looking for their mom. They were checking areas around the house to see if they could find the mom. And the reality is that when they finally got stopped looking because they said, mom's just not here, that they have found the back doors were wide open, right? The back doors were open. They were propped open with flower pots, planters, or whatever you want to call them. Not sure on that, Paula. I'll have to look that up, my friend. You should be able to. You should be able just to get them. I know they're there. Um, but anyways, let me continue. Just play around with it for a little bit. Um, so the idea is that they were there for about close to an hour's time. An hour time is a long time to be there looking for someone to then finally call 911. Okay? Think about that for a minute. So, what could have happened? Shoot, there's no telling. There's so much that could have happened in that hour's time. Paula, click on the little happy face, then they'll be at the top row of emojis. There you go, Paula. Angela, Paula on chat board, not keyboard. Let me know if you find them, Paula. Norma, Paula, just hit the smile face on your phone. April, Paula is the dogs at the top. Hit the smiley face besides comments. There you go. So, the question is has risen that they got there at 11 o'clock. They didn't call 911 until 12:03, and that was actually proven. So that is the timestamp of when Tommaso and Annie got to the house. Now, the big debate right now is how long. Why did they wait so long to call 911? Now, some have speculated that, well, maybe because they were looking around, they were looking around, they were seeing what was happening, they were trying to find the mom and all this. Totally understandable. But 56 an hour is a long time. So if you go and you just count how long 5 minutes is, you're going to realize, my God, we can do a lot in 5 minutes. But why did they wait an hour? Now, I'm not suggesting anything here other than to say that hour is an hour of lost time. You only have so much time to really hit a case hard and try to bring it to together to try to go ahead, because you got like 48 hours before everything starts to dive down as far as statistics. And this type of case, it is very, very uncommon for someone of this age to be taken. Okay. April Ward just sent one Devil Dog 88 gift membership. Thank you, April. Appreciate that. Ooh, raw, Simper 5, Devil Pop. Cool, Norma. Norma. Tor is in the house. Tori just got the membership literally from April. Awesome. Angela, Lord, please bring Nancy home. Norma, yes, did he strongly agree? So if you start asking yourself, what could have been done? Literally, man, it's no telling. It's no telling what could have been done, why they waited so long. And the idea that they waited so long because they were looking, it's really hard to fathom that it took that long to look before you went ahead and called 911. 911 should have been called absolutely as soon as you got there and said, "Hey, mom, where you at?" And you went in the house and you looked, nothing there. You went to the garage, nothing there. You went outside to the back, kind of screamed her name, nothing there. Okay, 911, we got to call 911 because something's not right. And then, especially if you saw the blood at the front door, don't know what they did because they wouldn't say. Nanas would not say who saw the blood at the front door. What did that mean to him, right? No one said that. Free up. I'm behind. Did they call the hospitals in an hour? And then call 911. Well, that was part of it. That was part of it, Freya. Yes, good point. That was part of it. That they were calling the hospital because originally the narrative was that they thought that maybe Nancy. Now get this. You have to put this in your thought. You really have to understand this. Apparently, when Annie and Tomasa got there, and they called for their mom to find their mom, and they couldn't hear anything, and they saw the back doors open. Immediately, they thought, well, mom must have called an Uber to go to the hospital. I don't know who would have thought of that. I'm going to call an Uber. Mom must have had something going on that she had to call an Uber to get to a hospital. I mean, I don't buy that for one bit, in all honesty. I just don't. I don't buy that one bit. To me, that's just crazy to think you're going to call an Uber to go to the hospital. No, you're going to call 911. I mean, if you're that bad, like not feeling well, you're going to call 911 because they're going to haul ass to get there, and they know the area. They know how to maneuver in that area. You're going to call 911. But that's not what happened. Well, let me rephrase that. It was said that Annie Tommaso had given that theory that they thought maybe their mom had called an Uber. However, they knew because they saw the phone, the pace, the phone, the hearing aids, her purse, everything was on the dresser in her room, and it was still there when they saw that, along with the back doors open. So that should have been common sense to say something's definitely not right, because mom would have took her purse, mom would have took her phone, her purse especially, because it's probably got all her IDs in it. So the idea that they're making it seem like that this is what could have happened, to me, is kind of far-fetched. Okay, calling 911, calling hospitals, they should have called 911 because 911 could have looked up the information in a matter of a minute, literally, to get you the information if there was any ambulances that were called to that location that night, right? So That doesn't make sense to me, in all honesty. Just doesn't make any sense. Welcome to the Devil Pup Tori. April Wars, nice, awesome. Congratulations, Tori. Norma, amen. Lisa, if not, she'll be happy later. Lisa Tori was here earlier. Awesome. Gronsky, one hour can disturb things in that house when they move to search. Call LE right away. Amen, Gronsky. A song in my heart says hi, BG, right Diddy. 5 minutes tops. Norma. Norma says, Gronsky. Lisa, okay, thank you, April. She could be still listening but busy. Paid song. Our pack is growing dog and pups. Amen, Lisa. Thank you. Norma, 911, most definitely. A song in my heart says, I would briefly think that she went to the hospital because her belongings were still there and because being kidnapped is unthinkable. Yeah, very briefly think on that, no doubt. Norma, Lisa, Angela, Didi has the best chat. Thank you, Angela. April Savannah said doors were open, so they thought medical emergency, which made no sense to me. Yeah, they were saying that because the doors were open, that they thought, well, maybe she went to the hospital and they took her from the back and they went ahead and left the doors open because they just forgot to close them. It just doesn't pass the smell test. In all honesty, guys, in all honesty, it doesn't pass the smell test. Most definitely, Angela. April kind of regret not watching the Hoda interview. Didi, all this makes no sense. So sad. I agree with you, Norma. Angela, Norma, I agree. So the idea that they went ahead and literally called or went ahead and really started to call all these hospitals, and I don't know how many there are in that area. I don't think there's that many, but I don't know. To call these hospitals to me and to look to see if the mom, I mean, at tops, you're talking maybe 5 minutes at best searching mom for mom, and you're talking probably another, maybe if you're lucky, you know, anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to call the hospitals to see, hey, was there anybody admitted by the name of such and such to your hospital? No? Okay, thank you. Next. Hey, so I don't know what they were thinking as to you know I don't know what they were thinking as to that took an hour long or 56 minutes or 59 minutes or an hour and 3 minutes. I don't know what took that long because that should have been literally established in a heartbeat. But nevertheless, it is what it is. Paige says, I would immediately freak out about the prop wide open doors too. No doubt. That would have been a big red flag. April, if she went to the hospital, Annie would have known. I would think why it makes no sense what Savannah said. Correct. Lisa, agree, April. Miss Marple, good morning. This educated and worldly family sure acted like that didn't have a lick of sense. No doubt about it, Miss Marple. Thank you for being here. If you are new and you want to join the channel. Help us all become smarter. Thank you so much for being here and thank you for the question. Norma, hi, Lisa. Agree, April. Lisa, and then no immediate ground search by LE. None. Zero. Brenda, good morning, Devil Dog, and most Mas and Pops. Brenda, good morning. So the idea that they literally waited that long tells me, is it possible that there was a lot of, I don't want to say it because it sounds like I'm speculating, but what else do you have? Could they have done something there? Could they have, I hate to say this because I don't know this. This is just a thought. It is possible that they could have done something to alter everything that was there, I guess is the best way to put it. So much love and respect to Brenda. Hi, Brenda. So the idea now, it says, yes, dog, they could have literally done something to alter that setting. They could have. It just makes you wonder why it took so long to call. Now, once law enforcement got there, okay, once law enforcement got there, they went ahead. Yes, absolutely. Paula says clean up and stage. Lisa, very, very, very possible, dog. Yes, I agree. It's very, very possible. April, I'll say this: it could have cleaned the scene, no doubt about it. I agree. You guys know where I'm going. Groundsky, yep. So the idea that they took that long, and then once they ended up calling 911, and 911 gets there, they they said that their mom had went missing, and that they thought that when they called 911, they said that they had thought that she had taken an Uber to the hospital, and that and when the officer got there, they had apparently they had told him that the back doors were open. Now, at this point, it should have been evidenced by the blood at the front of the door, by the front. It should have been evident that the officer would have asked, did you guys come in here through the front or the back door? Well, the back doors were open. Oh, okay. Uh, the front door has blood splatters at the front of the door. That should have been a clue that something nefarious is probably happened, because why would you have blood? Why would you have the doors propped open in the coldest time of the year? It was like 30 degrees, 30 some degrees that night. So none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense. And that's why people are so taken back by the almost like by the insulting of one's intelligence, I guess is the best way to put it, in my opinion. Brenda, April Flores, yes, Brian said the same thing, that Nancy was cleaning up every week schedule. April, Lisa always seems to take us back to tea. I'm thinking there's a very good reason, no doubt about it. It does, April and A. They hid their faces. So now we're looking at why did it take so long? Okay. So the cops arrive. Okay. Sheriff stated family did arrive at 11 a.m. What could have happened in 56 minutes? Well, you guys all just said it. Cleanup. No one knows that the blood was seen. When that question was asked to Nanos, Nano says, we are not going to talk about that. And because the question was asked about the who saw the blood, and he said, we're not going to talk about that. And then the follow-up question was, well, did the family or the deputies saw it? And he said, we're not having this discussion. So I don't know what his whole emphasis there was other than to say, all he had to say was, well, yeah. Later he said there was blood there, but all he had to say was, well, there was some blood outside in the front door. Just that simple, because there was. Everybody would have seen it. Everybody who went through the front door would have seen it. Cannot believe a single word bit of this right out the gate, no doubt. Norma, why wouldn't Tommaso taking in a question? He was the last person to see Nancy and make no sense. Alley Cat finally saw some sweet things about her mom on Savannah's Instagram. Awesome, Alley Cat. Brenda, Norma, he was. April, and why keep his car so long? And what is the relationship with Nano? So many questions, says April. So many. And if they had covered these by having these let's say, weekly meetings like we have all talked about, like I talked about for the first hour, that literally would have made sense. That literally would have made sense, you know? But of course, there's no communication. Must respect for dog. Multitasking, keeping his train thought on all we keep talking out loud. Brenda, thank you, Lisa. April, in my opinion, I think Nanos and Mark Kelly has something to do with all of this. Norma. So that's that. Now, so the family being Annie and Tommaso stated that the police arrived, looked around the house, back doors were open. Was the blood seen on the stoops? That was a question. We're not talking about that, says Nanos. Now, if you look at the back garage has a ramp. It's about 8 inches high, comes up and then levels off, but it goes in an incline. And they're saying that the garage door took 2 minutes to open when Tommaso arrived, that it took 2 minutes to open. Okay, and then 2 minutes obviously to close. So that would mean that he would have to have Nancy exited the vehicle, the garage door opened, Nancy got out of the vehicle, took her cane or whatever she had, walked up the incline, and then to the front garage door or to the garage into the garage where the door was at to the house. And I just don't find that very. It's not going to happen in 2 minutes. This is going to take a lot longer with her health conditions. I mean, it makes no sense to me, in all honesty. April says, "You can't clear family with no suspect," is what I read. That is true. That is very true. So now we have literally that happening. But then he says something that was kind of crazy. Nano says the family saw her into the house. What does that really mean? The family saw her into the house. The lady asked him, did they go into the house or who took her to the house? He said the family. And then they asked him, did the family see her in the house? And he said, yes, they saw her into the house. Now, the big wording that he keeps using, these type of words, are so open-ended. What did he mean by saw her? Does that mean that they walked her up to the house? Does that mean that Tommaso walked her up to the house? Does that mean that he saw her go into the house? You know, it's just so unclear. And he could have clarified that easily if he wanted to. He could have clarified that easily, but apparently he chose not to. BG, yes, the incline always stands out. Now, you got to also remember when a person gets out of a car, like, I don't know about you all, but like when I sit in my chair, my recliner, and I get done doing a live, I go to get up, man, my back is sore, stiff. It takes me a little bit just to like get my bearings together because I'm like, God, Lee, this hurts, right? Or God, that back hurts. So think of Nancy having back problems, leg problems, arm problems, mobility problems. Tommaso apparently takes her home, lets her out. She gets out, walks nilly willy to the garage, to the front door, or to the garage, and then to the door of the house in the garage. Makes no sense. I don't even move that fast, in all honesty. What incline, BG? The incline at the beginning of the garage page. So you know how normal garages are just straight, right? Well, there's a 8-inch height that's an incline at the. It's almost like I think of a ramp. It's almost, but it's made out of concrete. It's 8 inch going up, and then it starts to level as you go into the garage, and then it just starts to get a little higher and higher. It's like kind of like a, it basically the floor is kind of level to go downward, but that initial of entering is 8-inch incline. Now, it's a big incline, especially with somebody who has problems walking, for somebody who literally has problems literally maneuvering and is using a cane. That's just a lot to ask, especially after just getting out of the car and thinking like, oh, you're all limber and everything. That's not the case. When you get out of a car for any length of time, your back, if you are older or your back has been hurting, like Nancy's back, it would be hard just to maneuver and walk around freely like it's not a big deal. The incline going into the garage is very steep. Mark the Shark took a drone footage. April. And what about 40-minute perp spent in house? Paige says, okay, dog. Thank you. You're welcome, Paige. Thank you, BG. Krowski says, Nancy fit as a fiddle faddle, as a fiddle, 100-yard dash. BG, welcome, Lisa. Brenda, April, I thought about that. What if the perp knew Nancy and first showed up, start small talk, and then it escalated? That's very possible. That's very possible. Angela says, even if the garage there's a stupid up in the house with an 84-year-old woman with difficulty walking, why would he not walk her inside? Makes no sense. That's true. That's very true. And that's been brought up. Why would he not take his mother-in-law in all the way up the step of the garage and then take her inside the house? It just makes no sense. Norma, Brenda, that crossed my mind too. So the idea is that we're thinking in my mind when Tommaso pulls up, she exits a vehicle. The garage takes 11 seconds for the doors to go up, 11 to 18 seconds for the doors to go up. She gets out of the car and walks in with her cane or whatever she had. She walks in. At that same time, she goes ahead, and 2 minutes later, the garage door closes. And then supposedly Tommaso leaves. It just seems like 2 minutes is not enough for somebody with that many issues on her mobility due to her mobility issues, that 2 minutes is not enough. Sherry is in the house. Good to have you, Sherry. If you like the live, please join and become a family member. Become and join. Be a devil pup in the house. Help us all get smarter. So the idea that she did that in 2 minutes is just not feasible, in my opinion. It's not really feasible. You're asking a lady with leg problems, arm problems, hip problems, knee problems, arm problems, back problems, that she's just going to get out of the car and start walking. I just don't buy that. I really don't buy that. Paula, walk her inside and make sure everything is okay and doors are unlocked. For sure, that's what he should have did. But that's not what was said. It was done. You know what I mean? That wasn't stated that it happened like that. Brenda, of course, Brenda. Norm, good morning, Sherry. No doubt, Paula. I didn't think Tommaso was ever left Nancy. We don't even know if he was ever there. We don't even know if Nancy ever made it home, to be honest. Paige, Sherry, Angela, Lisa, I wish Ellie would get on the same page as us. No doubt. Well said, Angela. Norma, Welcome, Sherry. Me too, Angela. Hey, Paul, I never thought of the possibility. Good idea, in my opinion. So now we have that issue. And all to say, he just let his mother-in-law walk in, literally by herself with no help. And 2 minutes later, the garage door closes and she's in the house. But then Nano says they saw her into the house. Now, is that a word for they walked her in the house, or is that a word that says they saw her, literally saw her go into the house? So vague, so vague. Was it by accident that he was so vague, or was it by coincidence he was so vague? I'm not sure, but I wouldn't put it out. I wouldn't put it out there that he didn't try to make everything he said calculated, and everything he said he didn't try to make it vague so that way they could adjust it as need to be. House went from mess to immaculate. Nano's words, not mine. Marianne, I've been here just taking it all in. Good to have you, Marianne. Elica, what if Tommaso raised the garage door and then shut the garage door, but then carried or not carried, but walked and already injured Nancy to the front door? It's possible. It's all possible, no doubt about it. That's a very good thought. Paul, Paula says, no, I mean that I think he bought her home, but he never left. That's very possible. I'm not even so sure that there's no indication that says he brought her home. Okay, there's no indication that says that. What you do here is that the phone eventually disconnects with her pacemaker. That is what's said. They didn't say how that happened. They just said it happened. Lisa, I still believe Nancy never made it home alive, or Nancy was barely alive if she did make it home. My opinion only. No doubt about it. That's just an opinion. I get it. Makes sense. Don't think she never left to Annie's to go home. Paige, understood you, Paula. Angela, I would have walked Nancy all the way inside the house and asked her if she needed anything. That's usually what you do to someone who has health problems, someone who's older, someone who literally is up with a cane. I do. I used to do it all the time to my mother-in-law, you know, and without even thinking about it, I just did it because it just seemed like the right thing to do. Sorry, that was directed to DD. Okay, let's see where we're at. Oops, Angela says Marianne. Alley cat, possible for sure. T only opened and closed the door. It's very possible. Very possible. No doubt about it. Paula, her phone had to be connected to her home Wi Fi. Then her pacemaker disconnected the phone, right? Yes. But they don't say how far was the pacemaker in Nancy from her phone, because remember her phone was all in her room on her dresser. So the idea now is that we have literally a lot of what I would call very information that is very calculated in how they explained it. This is the best way I can explain it. That's exactly what I get confused, says Lisa. Alicat, sorry, my YouTube cut out. So what if Tommaso opened and closed the garage door, but then helped and injured Nancy to the front door for some reason? It's possible, Alicat. No doubt it's possible. Pay says, be right back. Yeah, the family said they saw her into the house, and the thing is, we don't really know what saw means, to be honest. Down, bandit. Down. Down, bandit. Just reading my notes here, buddy. So, in essence, that's what we're looking at. We are looking at literally the timeline just doesn't seem to fit. It just seems like you add this, all of this, with the combination of a lack of detailed information or update information, and what do you have? A big mess, no doubt about it, because there's not enough there to make sense of what is happening. That's just literally. So once again, I get back to, if they had literally, um, if they had, if they literally had more press conferences, people would be more at ease. But because they don't, people don't really know what the hell to believe. A box was damaged in the area of the and fixed, but not connection. Nancy. Alicat, who is Nano's boss? Well, he's elected by the people. His boss would probably be either, let's see, glowing at this one. It would probably be the commissioners, I would assume. The commissioners would be his boss, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how it works here in Ohio. The sheriff's boss is the commissioner. Um, yeah, I think that's what it is. I have to look that up, so don't quote me, but I think that's what it is. That's what I was thinking, Paula. Brenda, we really don't know what actually happened, what the condition was inside the house. Lack of information. No doubt about it. No doubt. Well said. Brenda, Ellie, Nanos is the boss. Nanos is the head sheriff. Right, but he's got somebody ahead of him, and I think it's the commissioners. I think that's what it is the commissioner. Everybody has a boss somewhere. And I think it's the commissioner. The commissioners or the council. It's one of them. So now we covered that. Um, Looking at my notes. Hang on a second, everybody. Just looking through my notes. So also, let's talk about. I'm going to go ahead and change a little bit here, if that's okay. The Pima County Commissioner. Then yes, yes, that's exactly who I was thinking. Brenda, Double Dog, wouldn't it be the mayor? It really just depends. It would be the mayor at the end of the day, um, if you were like a city cop, but I think the sheriff is the commissioner, if I'm not mistaken. In a local police department, like a city cop, it would be the mayor. He's the guy who swears you in and whatnot. April, Brenda, Nano said mess at first in the house, and then he said immaculate. Well, it could have been immaculate if there was some cleaning done. Brenda, April, yes, because the scheduled cleaner showed up and cleaned the house after the fact, which was still a crime scene, which now really contains his whole case, no doubt. So now let's talk literally about a person of interest. And you are thinking, who is another person of interest? And I would say a person of interest could be someone like, what about, I still keep going back to LD. I still keep going back to LD. And the reason I keep going back to LD is because there are so many anomalies with LD that aren't and haven't been explained. Kind of like with kind of like with Tommaso. There's a lot of unknowns there. Did he arrive at the house? Did he take Nancy back? It just doesn't make any sense. Brenda said, April, maybe they didn't know they had a cleaning company. Paula says, and Derek, yes. Derek's another one of them. Derek Kalela is another one of them that I would strongly look at. April says, LDNT. Neighbors can tell me they didn't know each other. Angela says, I know they have to retain information to protect the case, but this is ridiculous. Oh, I agree. I never see anything like this. BG says, I just saw that JLR was reached out by a producer to do a Netflix documentary. Yeah, I haven't heard that. Running Warrior says, salute, brother. Right back at you, my friend. Semper Fi. So, wrapping it back up, let's go back to the common sense. If we were given information on a weekly basis, there would be a lot more support because people would feel like they are literally getting information and their hard work is literally paying off, right? So, if in fact we did get that, well, then yeah, people are gonna feel like they're being listened to. That their theories and their surmises all make sense. Like very well could have been somebody that literally somebody that was there, right? So so the idea is that communication is crucial. You gotta have it. If you don't have communication, you don't have nothing. Okay. So if the sheriff is not communicating with the family, they have nothing. If the sheriff's not communicating with his people, that department is going to be so off keel, it's not even funny. If the sheriff doesn't give any type of report to the family, then how can the family or how can the people expect to look at the family as in, you know, a straight, narrow type of, position or a prediction. The fact of the matter is, you got to have communication. Got to have communication. If you're here and you're new and you like the live, please subscribe. Let's get this channel off the ground. Click that likes, send them emojis. Let's get that going, everybody. Brenda says, Devil Dog, you got that right. A walkaway case. Yep, you're right. That's what he called it. A walkaway case at first. So you got to have common sense, everybody, because common sense is going to lead you always back to information. It's going to make you literally uh, make you feel like nothing is falling on deaf ears. And that's not what we were getting. That is not what we were getting. So just want to keep that in mind. There's a lot more out there, but I'm going to continue this conversation. Um, Probably talk a little bit next time again about not just Nancy Guthrie, but also about the Joanna Ruth Shields, starting to get a little interesting there. We'll probably cover that at 5 o'clock. But just let me say to everybody, thank you so much for all your participation, everybody in the chat. Just got to pass this word around to your other streamers, other followers, other subscribers. We are growing. I mean, I'm not kidding you when I tell you that we are growing, you know, and it's just an idea of getting more people into the conversation so that we can have um, a lot more views of opinion, and we can learn a lot more from each other. That's the whole point. Saul says, as dark as it gets, night cannot see the walkway, no doubt. Norma Angela said, wouldn't Netflix need the family's permission to do that? Absolutely. Absolutely. April says, thank you for being here. Devil Dog, there is the email. If you guys get any information, please let me know. Thank you, DD, for another great live stream coverage. And Nancy's bless you, everyone, in the beautiful blessing day. See you all soon. See you at noon, everybody. Brenda, Devil Dog, sure will. Lisa, thank you again. Appreciate you. Everyone has a blessed day. Thank you. All right, everybody. Until we meet again at 5, I just want to let everybody know thank you for being here. Appreciate you spending some time with me. Always remember, everything is about common sense. It's all about common sense. God bless you. Let it red be. Much love. Thank you for popping in. I will see you guys at 5 o'clock. Have a great day.